Angie, whenever you're ready. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Bettendorf's Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is Monday, November 6th, 2023. The time is just after 5 p.m. Thank you all for being here. I'm Second Ward Alderman Scott Nauman, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll be presiding over tonight's meeting. Thankfully, Mayor Gallagher is staying home where he can rest. He's not feeling well tonight, so in an abundance of caution, we have him online. So welcome, Your Honor. Thanks for being here. Do we have any operational items that you all have to bring up? Any questions for staff on anything on our agenda? Anyone have anything to add or inquire for tomorrow night? If not, we can entertain a motion to leave all operational items on the council agenda for tomorrow night.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we'll take the operational items up tomorrow night at our regular city council meeting. Now let's move on to our consent agenda. We have some preliminary plats and a site development plan to talk about, all of which are for our Community Development Director, Mark Hunt. Mark, you have the floor.
Thanks, Your Honor. I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. Can I get my presentation to show up? I thought I just had it, so if I could have a minute, or we could do it simply through the packet and just, you could look at your monitors because it would match what's on your monitors. I'm sorry, I literally just saved it and came up here and I thought I was looking at it and it's not there now. So I apologize.
This is just rehearsal. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, no, it's a little concerning. I'm not gonna joke.
Man, that Taylor guy is busy.
Looks like it might be that Taylor guy.
Yeah, I say, he's busy.
It'll be Taylor's fault in a minute here.
Can you see your desktop there? You just not.
Well, I could log in and log into my desktop and do it that way, log out, or I could just grab my laptop. So if I want to connect a laptop,
There should,
Wi-Fi automatically.
and cast it.
I think there's a USB port or an HDMI port.
Yes,
I can't.
I think that will work.
This is gonna connect to anything. This is not.
Look on the other side, Mark.
What's this?
Mark, is it in the council packet?
Well, we could just go off the packet if we wanted to. That's gonna be the long way to do this, but that would work.
You could,
So this has a adapter it's supposed to connect to that's not there.
I probably have one
I don't know if that's
downstairs.
the one, Mark.
that should go in
It's
the,
not gonna happen.
Is that an HDMI port or USB?
USB. I know, so it should.
His computer.
Go to bettendorf.org and bring up the council packet. That way
Yeah,
it'll
we
be
can
on
definitely
the-
do it
That way
that
it'll
way.
show up there.
It'll be a little, if I can have just a minute to try and do it this way. It's not like we got a reception to get to or anything, so don't worry about that.
Information.
Did I miss that?
Maybe if a few more people volunteered to suggest something.
I guess I'll have a glass of water here.
I think we all both know what that no.
Just forget it.
We had that one moved to the. Just let me borrow his tractor, so he's getting my leg. Can you move that to the river? Have it moved to the river. Okay.
Okay.
Look at my water.
You're not gonna miss me, are you?
Thank you. It's not a beer.
Thank you.
Disregard.
There's not merit to the job.
That's right, I did read it.
Like, come back in or.
No, just stay where. He could come in from Bettendorf.org if he wants. Might be the better.
Is there any way to get this laptop on that screen? Will you help me? Everybody?
Any other business we can discuss? Jeff should be able to help with that. Either that or come in on Bettendorf.org on
Really, just these
the
items.
application mark.
That's why we have an assistant city administrator for problems like this.
Might have to.
We can transfer it over.
Good one.
Got one.
I can work with that. So,
Oh, yeah, to that guy.
I don't know how I'm gonna plug that. Just put it back. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Thank you.
It's been under construction.
Oh, one for
I
a
know they
packet.
were alternating, but
I'm not gonna be able to just hack it, 'cause it's,
Okay.
shoots there. It's,
Oh, jeez, yeah.
I think he's got it up.
Yeah,
He said,
yeah, he was making those like.
They'll have one little block.
yeah.
It's an authority walk there.
I'm just gonna want this to go.
I see we're doing this again.
Save it on the network back here again, like,
I see we're doing item B again.
no, I'm gonna try and save it through the network. PNC, I mean, I have this network, see, I'm saying.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Is Neil coming with you? You'll be fine. If you wanna be by somebody, Cody Noble usually does that, Jason.
Well, we're so close right now. The event horizon. I don't know if I should be concerned, but my ability to save onto the council items folder has been removed for some reason, so,
You know what, that happened to me today too, and I had to have IT fix it.
so
I thought it was
perhaps
just me.
that's a sign of things to come, I hope not.
Yeah, we've been meaning to talk to you both,
Yeah.
actually. Now that Michelle said it happened to her, I'm certain we'll have this resolved.
Well, Michelle's always nice and covers for me, so not the first time she saved my butt. Let me get started here with a slideshow, and I apologize for that delay. Sorry to waste your time. Case 23048 and 23069 is a preliminary and final plat. I'm gonna bring you two things at once that don't usually come together at one time. So you'll have questions, I understand that. But maybe if I can walk you through some history. This is a project that staff and Planning and Zoning Commission are very familiar with. Council, I think, has had some interaction, but maybe it's been a little while since you've seen this thing. So we will do the memory lane thing, but before we do that, let's just look at what's in play here. You have Devil's Glen Road, kind of on the east side of the project site here. And then Glenbrook Circle North, Glenbrook Circle South, and then kind of the unnamed, if you will, access road, private access road here. What we're talking about really is Lot 2, Outlot F, and portions of Outlot A, as they are named at the time of this map, which was back in 2022. This area's had a lot of changes as far as the platting, the legal subdivision of property, but obviously the ground is still the same ground. You're looking at Outlot 2 in red. That's where most development, when this final plat, preliminary plat get approved, that's where most development will occur. Outlot F is in yellow. That is a little bit contentious because that lot has some easements provided by the pipeline, or provided to the pipeline, that protect access over their pipeline. And developing on that portion of the lot is gonna be difficult without, or illegal without the pipeline's permission. And the pipeline's going through an ownership change, so getting that permission, which I think is probably possible, maybe even likely, is gonna take an extra long time. And pipelines aren't fast anyway, but when they're merging and changing names, getting people to respond to emails and things like that can be difficult. So they're working on that, the applicant's working on that as well. And then there's some detention outlot here, shown as Outlot 1, and then kind of a large area, mostly floodplain and floodway down in Outlot A here. Again, as they were named at the time of this map, but these are all the pieces and parts that are gonna be in the mix when you look at this preliminary and final plat, if that makes sense. The applicant is Nelson Construction Development. They build and run the Quartet Senior Living Facility here. And again, they're asking for preliminary plat and final plat. I'm bringing them both to you at once. I usually wouldn't do that, but because we had so many changes we wanted made on that preliminary plat, I didn't want it to come forward until I saw those changes come through P and Z as a final plat. So that's why you're getting two at once. You wouldn't normally get that. Just a little bit of development history. This is gonna predate a couple of us. Definitely predates me. Way back 2017, 2018, this piece of ground, don't worry about the plats or at all, but just worry, this piece of ground in general, was brought to the city as some type of single family home, maybe townhomes and apartments. Wasn't really laid out, but that was the concept that was brought. In 2018, it was rezoned from R3 to R5, from R3 and R5 to UMI, DCA, so development character area. That's bringing in this concept here where we started having the senior living facility, maybe some apartments. These apartments were already existing, the ones in white, some townhomes and some single family homes, again, based on the concept of mixed use. That vision changed slowly over the years, maybe rapidly, if you will. We started changing the lots to maybe have more townhomes and apartments at one point, and maybe less townhomes and more apartments at one point, but then that didn't seem to pan out. And in 2020, we ended up on this, which was a larger quartet facility, a plat that would facilitate a larger quartet, a larger retirement residence, if you will, in this area, and a big piece of green space with some stormwater storage on this piece. I'll get you closer in on all these things, but I'm just trying to show you the timeline. We started out with one concept, and we've kind of slowly changed and adapted. The city's approved different changes that have really got us somewhat far away from concept A here. This is that same concept A, but more in the artistic format, maybe not super to scale, it's more just to kind of show your mind's eye what it would look like filled out. And then we take that imagery, and again, not to scale exactly, just more for your kind of mental vision of how things are proposed and are looking. So originally proposed was a smaller quartet retirement residence. That's gotten much larger and has been approved by the city. And this area, which at one point was gonna be apartments, then transitioned to kind of open space stormwater storage, is now proposed in the future for some type of additional senior living facility. And then you filled in with some townhomes over here. So I saw the fanning, and I thought you were telling me to go faster. I'm like, all right, hold on. I saw the fanning.
Top flash.
That's all it takes, huh?
These townhomes over here, these are built now. This is not built. This is part of what's coming to you for a preliminary plat, final plat. And then, of course, this larger quartet facility has been built. So they brought us a preliminary plat. I held it reserved. There were a lot of changes going on. That preliminary plat wanted to consider one lot of record that included everything in bold here. One lot of record. That's not typically what we do. We usually reserve things like floodplain and floodway, especially floodway, which is designated here with an FW, I think. Hard to see, but you might be able to see it on your screen. We usually designate that into an outlot so that it's not developable. So that somebody doesn't buy it, think they can develop in the future. You put it in an outlot, it kind of reserves it from development. So we had a lot of concerns about that, so concerns about the stormwater being included in the developable area of a lot of record. We as a city really thought this piece up here, and to be honest with you, including Outlot F, if they can work with the railroad to get that permission to develop and put parking on it, we're fine. It's happened before, it's just not our call. We really thought this was the lot of record for development, something in this area. And maybe coming down here and adding some of the floodway, again, floodway, not floodplain. It's even more regulated than floodplain. And that's kind of what these notes say. It's like, hey, we're putting this on hold, bring us a final plat that matches those, which they've done. This is not the final plat. This is Mark playing engineer, but again, we talked to our applicant. We said, we know you want a bigger lot of record than just what that northern piece would be with lot 2 and outlot F. We thought maybe you do something like this. You come in and you bring a lot that comes down to the floodway but doesn't use the floodway. Get you a bigger lot, increases your total buildable size, and get you a lot of record that we would be comfortable with as a city. Again, we're talking about subdividing land here, and that's the real question. We're not really talking about the site development plan yet. And the applicant did that. So we have a final plat that creates a lot of record here. It excludes the outlot. It does skirt the floodway, which we're fine with. We just don't want the floodway into the developable lot of record. That outlot F question is really not ours to answer. That's between them and the railroad, but they've got it in there, fine
Between the
by us.
pipeline,
I'm sorry?
between the pipeline, not the railroad.
Yeah, pipeline would be better, maybe than the railroad to deal with.
Quiet zone.
I thought Fourth Ward was gonna get a railroad, darn it.
Yeah. And so, we think this is a lot that meets our standards, meets state code, and reflects what was negotiated, if you will, during that preliminary plat process. So a long way to get there. You've got a final plat that I think is approvable, if that's a word. And we would recommend that it does have approval. We noted that you're gonna have to work out, you being the applicant are gonna have to work out something on outlot F if you wanna develop on it. That's gonna be between you and the pipeline. You could call a railroad, but that won't matter, what they say. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission did have a unanimous recommendation for approval on October 18th, 2023. Sorry it took me so long to get there. Can I answer your questions, Your Honor?
Thank you, Mark. Any council member have questions? Councilmember Baden?
Thank you, Your Honor. Is there enough stormwater detention on this property when you look at everything that's been built?
Yeah.
We're getting pretty full. A lot of area that would absorb moisture is now gone.
Yeah, so my understanding, again, I'm not an engineer, I'm neither an engineer or an attorney, but people always ask me those kind of questions. My understanding from talking with our engineer and their engineers, there's a lot of capability for surface storage, and there's also capability for underground storage. And they can do that and meet our requirements of our stormwater ordinance. They have to do it, so no matter what, at site development plan, we're gonna go through those numbers. We'll make sure that they build the appropriate stormwater retention and storage.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Connors?
Mr. Hunt, what's the benefit of having a stormwater detention pond in the floodplain?
At max flood, it doesn't matter, it's no longer effective, yes. I think I understand the question. Not, if it would have to be built out of the floodway, out of the floodplain, obviously, so.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to this, for this to remain as consent agenda item H.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item will remain for tomorrow night. Mark, item J, please.
Yeah, 23070. This is 4200 to 4500 block of Forest Grove Drive. This is a piece of property that I think you're all familiar with, because we just had a recent and still processing future land use and rezoning case to it. The applicant is Forest Grove Landing LLC. The request is a preliminary plat, so that kind of first look at a plat, how we're gonna subdivide property. And its proposed uses are multifamily and commercial. This piece of property is a little over 62 acres, so you've got a lot to work with here. I did mention the future land use map change that's in progress for this body, changing this from UMI to UHI. And that has had one reading, I think has been successful. And that will allow the proposed rezoning also before this body, which I'll just go to that now, from A1 to R5 and C3. Remember, A1 is where everything starts on the edge of the city. It starts in A1 and it goes to whatever the appropriate development character, development type or zoning district is appropriate based on pattern development and so on. Staff has been supportive of these. They're in front of this body. I think they both have had one reading and been successful. This kind of gives you a preview of the action to come as far as the site, or as far as the preliminary plat. You're gonna have a piece of R5 and a piece of C3, so high in density residential and higher commercial in C3. Here's a concept plan. We're looking really first off at two things that are more of the for sures, if you will, on this property. In the R5 piece here in the northwest corner, a multifamily high-end apartment complex similar to one already existing in our community with similar ownership or the same ownership, 288 units across several buildings here, labeled as first phase because that's a more of a for sure item. Remember, we're 62 acres, so to have all 62 acres planned out is difficult for anybody. Also, a little less conceptually, and I'm in a little more real, if you will, first phase is on the frontage of Forest Grove Drive, between Competition and Forest Grove, if you will. Looks like 4 buildings of commercial use here that will also be built in the first phase. The remaining area is really phase 2. You've got some imagery on here. Whether it's gonna look exactly like that, we don't know, and we're not really holding them to it. It's not that type of condition, if you will. On the preliminary plat here, what we're really concerned with is access, and we're getting good access both north, south, and east, west. Of course, you do see some dead-end roads, but don't worry, they do have temporary turnarounds. You can see one there. It's a little harder to see on this one, but those temporary turnarounds will be there for fire vehicles and EMS and our garbage trucks and snow plows and things like that. But our access is good. It does consist of 4 lots and several outlots. Future development will obviously include the westward extension of Competition Drive as an east-west route. And then up to our city border at least, we hope International Drive will also continue to the north. Pretty cut and dry on this one. It's just a preliminary plat. We do have a positive recommendation from your Planning and Zoning Commission and your staff.
Thank you, Mark. Council members have any questions? Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. The hotel, I know it's later, but looks like 2C, is that 2 hotels or 1?
Yeah, I don't think you can say there's gonna be a
It says
hotel
3
or
and
not
4 on
here.
it.
I
Pardon me?
think that's real conceptual, so that could be, that's kind of just a little bit of a pipe dream, in some of those areas. This is single family for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is multifamily for sure, but you know, up in this area, I don't think we have any
Okay.
real idea what's coming.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Other questions? Jerry?
Thank you, Your Honor. Is the R5 required for what their concept is? It seems to me that they could get by with a lower designation.
That would not work. They would not be able to build the density and height that they're requiring for these buildings.
So how high are they planning to go?
I don't have a site plan in front of me right now, so I can't tell you exactly, but I'm thinking these are at least 3 stories or more.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to leave this on our consent as item J.
So moved.
Second.
Motion a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that'll remain on tomorrow night's agenda as as consent agenda item J. Item L, Mark?
Yeah, case 23012 is at 2570 Middle Road. You will be familiar with this. Here's the Northwest Bank Tower. The co-op, Vintage Co-op, is just to the north of this site. The applicant is Switch Homes. It's addressed at 2570. I think I said that. It's a request for a site development plan for commercial and retail use. The area is all C2. The proposed use is restaurant, office, and retail. There is some R1 across the street, but this pattern of development has been going commercial for years now, decades, honestly. The site development plan, which you can see here on the screen, is for a strip mall style development. It's parked well, probably over parked, just to give them a lot of flexibility in users. It does have a drive-up window. You don't build a strip mall anymore without a drive-up window, at least on one side. It does have a potential patio. Of course, if that patio is gonna have alcohol service, then it would have to have a special use permit for the alcohol service, but simply citing it is okay here. Stormwater detention connects to city infrastructure, and then we'll have some stormwater detention here as well. As far as the landscape goes, really you're just doing a lot of that landscape work on Middle Road. But we have a negotiation in place, and we're really happy that the developer has been so friendly to work with the Vintage Co-op. And we're gonna be flexible with them. If they wanna move some of these required trees to the north property boundary, perhaps even off their property to give the co-op a little bit more screening than they might have had, I think that would be fantastic, and it works for us because a lot of this stuff has easements for utilities and other things in it anywhere we really don't want the trees there. So we may, in the future, work with the 2 property owners to relocate some of these tree requirements to the north of the property that provides a better shelter up against Vintage Co-op. That meeting has taken place. I've had good response from both parties. Your building elevation here, it may be subdivided as you see it here, or they may chunk it up a little bit different since you're kind of building on spec. You know, people always see, oh, there'll be 6 units for sure. Well, there could be 3 or 4 depending on how the space gets leased out. But they do conceptually show it as 6 units. We do have a positive staff recommendation. I did mention the condition that we want the developer and Vintage Co-op to work together at maybe doing some screening, moving some of those plantings out of our easements anyway, which would be better for the city, and then put them in a spot that helps screen between the 2 buildings. And I believe that's occurred actually. And the Planning and Zoning Commission does have a positive recommendation for you as well.
Great, thank you, Mark. Questions? Councilmember Connors?
Mark, I appreciate the fact that you don't want any plantings in the easement along Middle Road, but I have a concern about everybody driving down Middle Road. The first thing they're gonna see is a detention pond.
Yeah.
Out in front.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you can talk to the developer about screening that in an alternate way instead of?
I'm sure we could. They've been pretty good to work with, pretty proactive. I can't guarantee their response, but I have a pretty good rapport. So I would be happy to carry that message.
Oh, that's what you can do. Thank you.
Greg, you had a question?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. How do you get to this property? Is it through the Northwest Bank?
Yeah, so that, remember all that, Councilmember, all that same access rights that we helped establish with the development of Hungry Hobo and the Vintage Co-op are, is all 3 years. You're gonna come off Middle Road, you're gonna turn north, and you're gonna have an access point here and an access point here. Those are your two access points, and that's that easement that runs all the way up to the co-op. Right through here.
Okay. Thank you.
Bill?
My experience, and I've been up in the area quite often, is this access point from Northwest Bank on the Middle Road is not the one that's used. The one that's used is the access point over to Spruce Hills Drive. I would say 8 out of every 10 people will use that different access point.
Yeah, good observation. I do think, as you all know, there's been some discussion about a future turn lane, signalization, different things that might come into play as this area develops. I think there's some negotiations that the city's been a part of to establish that when the time comes. So we'll watch that traffic and then we can bring those to bear if we need to.
Do we think, Mark, at this point, that area is flowing pretty well? I know council had some great concerns leading into the Hungry Hobo development and some other activities due track and even the activity at Palmer. It seems to be working, but Keith, you have a comment about traffic flow along that corridor?
So my observations personally have been, it's not what we thought, I mean, as far, in a good way. We haven't had, I pulled out of there making a left-hand turn, and I haven't really had to wait too long. I don't believe we've had any issues with accidents. I would know about that, and we've not had accidents, so it's really, it's not an issue. And I don't think this addition is really gonna create any extra concern.
Yep. Thank you. Jerry?
Thank you, Your Honor. My concern is the sidewalks. They have sidewalks around the perimeter of the building, but there is no way to get to that sidewalk from another sidewalk. So here we have another strip mall that the only way to get there is drive. You know, we've even got the Vintage property to the north, and there's no sidewalk for those residents to get to this development.
So internal service walks are not required under code. In certain developments, we've been requesting them or asking for them, but again, they're not required. That's something that council could ask the developer to do, or could ask staff to ask the developer to do, to put a service walk from here back into their property, so you could at least walk into the at least this drive lane and get you over closer to the property. We didn't require it. This is probably not a walking destination for the most part, but certainly that's something we could go back and ask if you wanted to. We're gonna have to talk to them about the tree plantings anyway, so we can throw it out there. I can't by code make them do it, because it's not a public right of way, it's not a sidewalk, it's an internal service walk.
Well, we advertise ourselves as a walkable community, so it seems to me we should be able to walk to facilities, particularly new facilities. So I guess I would request that we do.
Yeah, I'd be happy to make that request.
least
Again, I don't
ask
have a
them.
code to force it, but I could request it.
Other questions? Frank?
I'd like to go back to traffic for a minute, Mark, and make sure I understood what you and the chief were saying there. Are they going to have access onto Middle Road from that property?
There's no new curb cut onto Middle Road.
Not
The
on-
only access is the existing access through the Northwest Bank entry, if you will.
Good.
If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to leave this item on consent agenda as item L.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that will remain on consent agenda as item L. Mark, we have item M coming forward.
Yeah, 23062 is addressed to 35th Street. This is down in our industrial part of town. Here's 35th Street, Depot Avenue, dead ends right here. Probably familiar with Severe Steel, given the recent news. The applicant is Mike Janisek with Martin Whitaker Surveyors. We're looking at Lot 1, Fry Moyer and Haggerty First Edition. That sounds like a law firm. It's a location of what will be 4 buildings, kind of continuing off some storage development that was done down here, and which is an appropriate use in our industrial area, or an allowed use anyway. So it's a site development plan for contractor condos, some small warehousing and convenience storage on this property that's highlighted in yellow, which matches a pattern development that's occurred to the south. It is zoned I3 heavy industrial. There's some pretty big setbacks on a heavy industrial area. The problem is when you get small lots and you have big setbacks, it makes the lots unbuildable. So a variance was granted by the Board of Adjustment to ease some of those setback issues. And I did mention the proposed uses are permitted uses in I3. This is a little hard to read. So the dark stuff is pavement for parking. The lighter colors are where your buildings are. So your 4 buildings are one here, another smaller one here, and one here. And they vary between contractor condo and convenience storage, that type of thing. You're gonna have 2 points of entry off 35th Street. You're gonna keep your bike paths both on 35th Street and on, I would say Depot Street, but Depot Street kind of stops. But where Depot Street would extend, if you will. And then plenty of parking for the type of user they're gonna have here. Again, these aren't active like businesses with customers, so to speak. They're more kind of quick stop, grab your supplies and go do a job if you're a contractor, or come in, offload some things for storage and leave. So the parking count is appropriate. It's actually gonna beautify the area a little bit because we don't have a lot of great landscaping down in our industrial area. So when you get down there, you're gonna see more green than you've seen. It's a pretty good benefit to our existing trails as well, because they'll actually have some greenery alongside the trails that'll be kept up and looking nice. So I'm happy to see that come in, and then some flowering and plantings as well, especially on the north side, south piece of that trail. They're gonna put 12 tree factors in, and I did mention the placement will enhance the beauty of the bike path user experience. Building elevations, these are, kind of just your plain Jane storage buildings, contractor condos. They're gonna fit right in down in the industrial area. That's the type of building you're gonna see down there. We do have a positive staff recommendation. Because this site joins and is also owned by the same owner, Lot 1 and Lot 2, which is just to the south, and they're gonna be operating as one single business for storage and contractor condos. We're gonna ask for some cross easements and an agreement not to sever between lots 1 and 2, because they're gonna function as one business. Let me go back and show you that. So here's what's gonna be developed, new, and then a similar business, same ownership is already operating here. You can see the point of egress or ingress or egress as well. So we're gonna have them do agreement not to sever and do cross easements so that people are coming in and using this as one location. It makes sense and there's no trespassing or parking issues. And positive recommendations all around. I'd be happy to answer any questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mark. Council members have any questions? Nick?
Thank you, Your Honor. So when I'm looking at these plans, main point of access to on the northeast building is not street side, correct?
Main point of access.
Like for somebody going into these buildings, they're not going to enter these buildings via the street side? They enter into the lot, and then where you see the parking stalls, that's where all the entry is? Okay.
Yeah, so the building's facing interior.
Inward, right,
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand
okay.
what you mean now, yes.
Okay, and then you have the lot, or the building on the south end, that is, the main point of entry is then facing south?
Right, and that's why we're gonna
Okay.
do that. So because it's same
Shared
ownership,
lot, right.
same owner, and that person is gonna make an agreement not to sever, so it's gonna be like one lot forever and ever, if you
Okay.
will. And so that's how that will work. Yeah, I kind of glossed over that, sorry.
No problem, all good. Thank you.
Bill?
What did the zoning board say was demonstrated as a hardship to reduce a setback from 50 to 20 feet?
Lot configuration, I believe, was the hardship that was used, because the lot is so small that when you start pushing those in, you get a real skinny area of development.
So the lot south of it is similarly configured, so
Yeah,
it would be my guess that when that lot develops, the developer will come in and ask for reduction from the 50 to 20 foot again.
on the south lot,
Yeah,
directly south, this already has some development on it, and they don't have the 2 corners, so this is a corner lot,
yeah.
almost
well,
a corner lot because of Depot Street.
Yeah,
existing.
there's some old buildings on it, but
Yeah,
uh,
I don't know.
I'm
that
just
they'll come in.
hoping about a precedent that everybody that develops down there wants to come in and ask reduction from the 50 foot that the zoning ordinance requires down to 20 foot because they'd like to put more stuff on the lot.
It could happen, you could ask for anything, I suppose. I would say here, the hardship being that this is basically a corner lot with the bike path being the right of way that makes the top corner, if you will, and the 35th Street being the east corner. You don't have that same situation here because you don't have that corner lot concept. But you're right, I wouldn't bet against you.
Well, I'm just bringing it up. There's always a lot of discussion at zoning board with some of these decisions. Are we creating a precedence?
Right. Yep.
So I just hope a precedence hasn't been set for our industrially zoned properties. Thank you.
Nick?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Are there any concerns with the condition of the land, like brown use or anything like that? I know that that area has some of that.
Yeah, so all the environmentals are are done at the developer's expense, and it's their job to comply with those. We don't really review them, or put any, as far as the site development plan, we don't really put any onus on that. That's all on their part. When they're going to buy the property and get the funding, they're gonna do those phase 1, phase 2, environmental if necessary. And so that's on the developer, not really a city perspective, if you will.
Thank you.
Other questions? I'd like to entertain a motion to leave this on our consent agenda as item M.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that will remain tomorrow as item M. Mark, we have item N.
Yeah, case, thanks, Your Honor. Case 23067 at 2119 Kimberly Road. You might remember it as the old Hobby Lobby or maybe Kmart if you're a little older. I don't know. Could be other things in between. Getting some redevelopment, and I think this is a good thing in this area. Now, just a piece of it. So you're seeing a large building here, and I'm sure you've been in it at some point in your life, but just a small portion of it is actually coming under for redevelopment, and it just barely qualified for our site development plan. We kind of have a 10% rule, and so that's what's going on here. A small piece of this is going to be redeveloped, and we wanted to bring it to you for your approval. It is zone C2, and the proposed use, which is kind of a, I'm going to call it a medical use. It's adult day healthcare facility is what the term of art is nowadays. And so they're going to take this piece and add an awning, a drop-off location. Really, that's the only new construction. Everything else will be remodel on the interior. And do some greenery on the outside and restripe some parking. But the building pretty much stays in the same configuration for the most part. The overhang area will be added and some landscaping as shown here. And for an adult day health facility. I want to show you, I think I pulled, I did have an elevation, or I'm sorry, an interior elevation in here. So it's kind of 2 floors, so there'll be 2 floors of work, of day area, some treatment rooms, if you will. Kind of a much needed facility in our community. It was unanimously approved at Planning and Zoning Commission, and of course had a positive staff recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Council members have any questions? I'd entertain a motion for this to remain tomorrow as item N.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item will remain as N tomorrow. Moving on to the remaining items on our consent agenda. Any questions anyone has on the other consent agenda items we've not already talked about? Greg?
Mark, when we were talking that first, with the quartet,
Yeah.
north of that is that turnabout. There's a great big hill. I think we've kind of touched on this. Does our current rules require, if we were to do it all over again, would they have to put a sidewalk in on the north side?
Yeah.
Is that getting changed in the updates? There's
You could.
there's a huge hill there. There's no way. All it does is make the hill steeper.
Right. So we could add some flexibility about where sidewalks are required. Certainly, this didn't get built out with homes, so, and it never will be. The grades would not allow that. So the sidewalk kind of quote goes to nowhere. So you could maybe add an option to remove sidewalks in right of way that doesn't directly connect to homes. You could do something like that, or make it at the discretion of council or staff, however you want to do it. Also, just the grading of and topography, having a sidewalk up against that steep of a hill, the hill is always sloughing over the sidewalk, always.
It is,
So
yes.
just, you have some topographical concerns that you may say, hey, if topography isn't right, why put a sidewalk in? You might add that in the code as well.
And then to the west of the turnabout, that can't be developed either.
Yeah, this is not
Right
really,
there? Yeah.
right,
So the side, I mean,
I
it
won't
just
say never, but it's.
complete waste of time and money, and it also makes the hill steeper than it would have needed to be. So in the future, I think if you guys see something like that and say, well, you should have the flexibility to recommend that
Yeah, absolutely.
it not be there. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Other questions? Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion for the consent agenda to remain as set for tomorrow night.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll take that up as written tomorrow at 7. Are there any items to be added to tonight's agenda by the council? All right, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we stand adjourned.